I am curious if there's anything coming from any one of my friends that has passed.
Gotcha. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see what happens. Okay. So the way that this is coming through is basically, I feel like I have to highlight this man. And the way that I would describe this, if I'm kind of connecting with this guy, it feels like this person was very young. It's interesting, when he comes through, he's showing me, weirdly, a monkey on someone's back, which usually indicates having an issue, something that you can't let go of. Wow. Man. They're showing me an IV, and that always indicates like something we would put into our bodies. But I feel like I am under the influence of some form of a substance. In the months leading up to his passing, I just feel like someone from his past may have kind of either triggered him or put him in some form of a headspace where doing this now would feel like a good idea. Someone just kind of was like, hey, wanna go do this? And then he couldn't not.
My friend Kevin, he lived a couple blocks away from me growing up, and we lost touch. And then I randomly saw him at a recovery meeting, and you know, he was like fresh out of jail and had 60 days of sobriety, and we just kind of picked up a new relationship. We were kids growing up, but you know, him carrying like the monkey on his back, he had very intense anxiety, and it often led him back to relapse.
The horrible thing about this is that it feels like he keeps having me talk about, it doesn't make any sense, going out on a high note, going out on a high note. As odd as it sounds, he's showing me music and he's showing me an arrow, which always references to the future. He's not done, he says. It could mean that what he wasn't able to achieve here, he feels like he'll see some follow through that other people will do in his honor or in his legacy. If they helped create something, then we release the song. It's that kind of thing of like, my name's gonna be attached to it even though I'm not physically here. And by launching this, it honors me. So I know it's a lot to take in, but does any of that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you have yet to release since he's passed?
Mm-hmm.
I need you to know that he feels like doing this, he's gonna be able to get the notoriety he wanted and the fame he wanted.
As you said, his tolerance was at a certain point. He got 7 days sober, so his tolerance went to another point. I think that he took the same amount of drugs that he normally would take, and he overdosed. And you know, he did struggle with suicidal thoughts, but I do believe that it was completely a tolerance thing, like you said, and it wasn't anything intentional. So all of that was spot on.
So what about dead people? Anybody around?
You know, interestingly, you do have a grandmother figure that does come through, but she comes through like a mother would come through for a daughter, very intensely and very strongly. Three. Where are the three siblings?
All Alaska.
Okay. Because then she'd be referencing to that. It's weird in the way this comes across. She's just referencing to a pride for you and then referencing to siblings, and I feel like I take on the roles of what maybe mom should have done at certain points for these other siblings. Even still, there's an acknowledgement that the relationship with mom is not necessarily with you, but with siblings. There's still elements of, and I don't think that'll ever completely resolve. Your grandmother views your mother as stubborn, but I mean, it is what it is. When she goes through, she's very connected to you, just in a very personal way.
When my grandmother came through, I feel like it made sense what he said. And the stuff with my mom, all that made sense. And I think at every turn in my life when I was scared or down, I sort of always chose to stand up and go my own way, and I'm proud of that. It's nice to hear that my grandmother Arva might be as well.
There's a very strong emphasis on this. He's acknowledging that he should not have been left alone at a time when he was left alone. And that's coming in, and that's what he's putting a lot of emphasis on. The person who should have been there to monitor wasn't monitoring, and it's like, I trusted you to be there, I trusted the role that you were supposed to have to help me, and you left, and it's like, of all times, you should be right here.
Did something happen while he was abandoned?
It's an interesting thing with this because I feel like when he was abandoned, that would have been an ideal time for him to try to reach 911, to try to call for help, to try to get help. At this time, he realized something was wrong while he was alone. And that's when he was conscious and realizing something's wrong here. But I just don't feel like he had someone to like say, hey, I'm having a medical emergency, something's happening.
No
'cause
one
this
was
person
there to
wasn't in
say
the room.
that. Yeah, okay.
And so after I realized, okay, there's something wrong going on in here, there's this feeling of, oh, this medication kicks in.
Oh, I see.
I suddenly
okay.
become affected by this medicine. So it's kind of like a feeling of like, oh my God, what do? I don't want to waste time. Like clearly something's happening, and this happens very fast.
I think what hurts more than anything else is that not only was there a need for someone to be there for him, but there was a trusted person, a person that he trusted, a person that was in that inner circle, and that person wasn't there. And just to hear that, just really, it tears you apart. I just wanted to just cry.
The man that is popping in that I have to acknowledge, the feeling is life gets cut too short, or like someone passes away before their time. And when he comes through, he acknowledges a reference to music. He is showing a legacy being continued on. And then he is having me reference to like a dedication, but in a musical sense. And it comes through. Now the interesting thing is he acknowledges this hasn't been done yet. And he feels like he's involved in it. I like it.
It's amazing because right now I'm working on music for him, but he's on the record.
That's amazing.
And it's just a beautiful connection, and it's all for the love of him.
That's awesome. Well, I can't wait to hear it. That'll be
Yeah.
amazing. And he clearly is really happy about that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got that there. Thank you. There is an acknowledgement in the way this comes through of him basically bringing up this fact of showing me soulmate, soulmate, soulmate. And he's very instinct, like automatic, insistent, very, very, it's like coming through so strongly. It's like soulmate, soulmate, soulmate.
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 Like, what do you mean, me with?
That's what I'm getting at. I'm trying to figure this out.
Yeah, well,
'Cause
I mean, my hands are sweaty. That's crazy.
the second I start connecting, there's such a protective vibe, and I actually don't always get that kind of feeling. Protecting you, watching over you, kind of like a guardian angel kind of situation. I feel like I would go to them for advice, or they would be there to always kind of give me the right input. So
Yes.
it's very distinctly that energy. He seems like it's like my go-to guy, is the way I would describe it. They have me talk about you, and I see you succeeding, and you taking off and launching, and it's amazing. It's almost like your success isn't just your success. By seeing you being successful, this man feels successful. Like living vicariously through your achievements. It's just kind of a very special feeling, and it like lives on through you. He's presenting himself as a bit younger. And that's usually one of two reasons. Either they passed away at a bit of an earlier age, or they would have been that kind of personality that would be like youngish.
That makes a lot of sense.
And he's like an integral part of when it comes to your career, where things are going towards the future. It's like he informs so much of this.
You nailed it.
Awesome.
You're talking about my father. His name is Michael, and he passed away in his 50s. He wanted me to be successful. He would be like, you're gonna sing and you're gonna play the flute. And I was like, but I don't know how to sing. He's like, you're gonna sing anyway.
Figure it out, yep.
I feel like that is actually still happening.
I agree,
you know?
absolutely. And when he comes through, he's still so involved in your career. It makes
So involved.
He's having me talk about a delay in informing someone of his passing. And there's this whole thing that's coming through about like someone who should have gotten immediately notified. Or it's like everybody else is informed except this one person.
I was the last to know.
Gotcha.
I missed the phone call.
Ah, okay.
It was very jarring. I was in the shower.
Gotcha.
And I had all these missed phone calls.
Wow.
And then I called my sister, and she just goes, Dad's dead! And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, that's not the way you say that to somebody. And I just remember I like threw my phone down.
Gotcha.
And I was so upset.
I can't imagine having to go through that.
It's like, that's not the way I should have heard that.
Exactly, and he didn't want you to hear it in that way. And there's just this feeling of like, I'm sorry that that was your introduction to grief. because that shouldn't have been the case.
Thank you.
So please know in this way, he's very aware of the circumstances. He just didn't want to leave a mess with this situation. And
I was not expecting to need to hear that. It was just something that I was like, oh, this is how it happened. This is how death happens. But like the trauma in that small moment has affected me in so many ways. I just feel such a release right now knowing that he knew that that was going on and that it's a part of my experience with his death.
Exactly.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, well, you know, that's kind of the power of grief. We grieve in different ways as time goes on, and I hope that at the very least there's comfort in knowing that he knew what you were going through. He sees that. And he's so proud of you for being able to handle all of this despite that.
Wow.
That's huge.
That was massive, Tyler.
Oh, I love it. I'm so glad.
I can breathe.